Hello, beta. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are going to go ahead and we are going to talk about the criteria of public investment decision. Okay. We have already seen what is public investment and why it is important. What is the objective of public investment? Today, we are going to go ahead and we are going to understand what things you have to keep in mind while making any public investment decision. ठीक है? So what is public investment, बेटा? क्या होता है public investment? Public investment is basically investment in all the kind of projects like education, like healthcare, like making a flyover, ठीक है? Which means that it is investment in social economic projects, socio projects. Those projects may be unemployment benefits. These are all public investments, right? So public investment decision, it involves, what does it involve? It involves understanding how government will allocate its resources to different socio-economic and environmental projects. So it is to understand how government will be going ahead and putting its money in different socio-economic and environmental projects, right? Now, there are various criteria which the government will go ahead and consider while going ahead and while deciding, where to go ahead and where to put the money, right? But इसमें सबसे important जो आता है, one of the most important, we can say, analysis that government will go ahead and will do analysis. It's also called as socio or social cost benefit analysis related to public expenditure, right? So we can go ahead and we can divide these decisions in various parts. ठीक है कि पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन किस किस चीज पे डिपेंड करेगा उसको हम वेरियस पार्ट्स में डिवाइड कर सकते हैं. सो द फर्स्ट factor affecting these decisions, so write down factors affecting public investment decision. The first one that we have, those are the economic factors. Right? And within this economic factor, the first one that we have, that is called as cost benefit analysis. See, cost benefit analysis is something which is done by both public and private sector. So when we talk even about the private sector, they will be going ahead and they will be also doing cost benefit analysis. So if you remember, you would have studied that, many times we go ahead and ask ki, how does the government or how does the private sector invest their money? And the answer is that they will be looking at the net present value, right? So they will go ahead and they will suppose, let me give you a simple example. So to go ahead and understand that, suppose I have to go ahead and I have to buy any capital. Say I have to buy a machine. What will I do? Suppose that machine goes ahead and costs me 100 rupees. And every year it generates a cash flow of 10 and it generates for 10 years, right? Starting from the next year. So what will I do? I will discount this. I will discount this, right? And then so this is my investment today. This is after 1 year, it's present discounted value. After 2 years, it's present discounted value, and so on, right? And then what I will be getting will be called as my net present value. And if this net present value will be greater than 0, right, then I will be doing the investment. And if it will not be greater than 0, then I will not be doing the investment. So exactly that cost benefit analysis can be done in any public investment project also, और any public expenditure. जब भी गवर्नमेंट कोई भी खर्चा कर रही है, उसमें ये कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस गवर्नमेंट कर सकती है, राइट? एंड if the benefit exceeds the cost, only then it is beneficial for the government to invest in that project, right? So how do we do the cost benefit analysis better? First of all, first step 1 is that we define the project and objectives of the project, right? So we tell what is my project. Do I want to invest in education, health, infrastructure? What is the scope of the project? How much I want to achieve? Do I want to achieve a road which is from place A to place B? How much kilometers road needs to be developed? And in what time frame will I be going ahead and will I be developing that road, right? So what I want to go ahead and what I want to do is, I want to under step 1, I want to identify the purpose of public expenditure or public investment, right? For example, is it in the healthcare sector? Is it in the education sector? Or is it in the infrastructure sector, right? Then I want to go ahead and I want to establish the scope and time frame for analysis, right? So I want to understand कि क्या scope रहेगा, कितना काम करना होगा इसमें, right? And what would be the time frame? Within what period will I be going ahead and will I be achieving this? That's the next thing that I will be going ahead and I will be doing, right? Once this is done, then I will be going ahead and then I will be identifying what are the different costs related to it and what are the different benefits related to it. So step 2. This is identification and categorization of cost and benefit, right? So we will be going ahead and we will be understanding in the cost side that what are the direct and indirect expenses incurred during project lifetime. What are the direct and indirect expenses I will be incurring, right? Similarly, from the benefit side, I will understand what is my expected benefit. So for example, if you are going ahead and if you are doing something in the environmental sector, so what is the gain to the society after you go ahead and after you bring that environmental change, right? So what is the expected benefit? That expected benefit can be economic benefit, it can be social benefit, it can be environmental gain, right? So we will be understanding the cost, we will be understanding the benefit associated with it, right? So we have seen that when we talk about the cost beta, in the cost side, there can be various costs that you can incur related to any project, right? There can be capital cost, like for example, the initial investment, bringing the capital, construction, procurement, bringing the machine, right? There can be operational cost, right? So for example, I have built a school. Now I have to go ahead and I have to pay salary to different employees, right? Or I have to pay electricity bill to run that school for education to be available for all. So utilities, long-term project, etc. So one is my capital cost, one is my operational cost. Then there is environmental cost, right? For example, whenever you will incur any project, it can lead to pollution. It can lead to land degradation. So in in Delhi especially, there is a famous example of there is a famous uh, mm, I cannot call it even a mountain. There is a famous place where all the where all this waste is dumped, right? That is an environmental cost, right? So we have to consider those, right? And then there is opportunity cost, right? Opportunity cost is PPF. It means that when we put more resources to produce one good, we are automatically producing less of the other good, right? So when resources they are diverted in one sector to one good, then automatically they are less for the other good. So they are coming from other potential investment. They're coming from another potential investment, right? So we have to consider all kind of costs related to public expenditure, right? And whenever you think about any cost related to public expenditure, it is always good to keep one idea of, one example handy related to what happens in India, right? So, for example, if I tell you that there is capital cost, right? Now we know what is a capital cost. A capital cost is basically cost which is incurred on road, school, hospital, defense, etc. So what you can do is that you can just remember this. कि ठीक है, this is a capital cost, and you can just state an example. कि when building a school, when building a hospital in India, the cost that is incurred is a capital cost, right? Similarly, operational cost, beta. Operational cost is wage, utility, etc. Achha, there is another cost. I will just create a highlight. I will just, take it here down and I will write here as procurement cost. Procurement cost is basically the expenses that you have to incur to purchase the goods and service for government project. Okay. So now, for example, if I want to go ahead and I want to start building a metro in Delhi, NCR. And for that, I need a particular raw material, a particular, I need a particular machine which is not built in India. I have to procure it from somewhere else. So what is my expense? What is my expense related to purchasing good and service for government project? What is the money I am spending to procure this, right? These three kind of cost beta, these are called as direct cost. These three costs, they are called as direct cost. Similarly, when we talk about the opportunity cost, right? Opportunity cost is an example of indirect cost. Opportunity cost is an example of indirect cost. And there are many other indirect costs also. So one another indirect cost is called as the regulatory cost. Regulatory cost is the cost related to policy enforcement. So for example, I am building a metro. Now, while building a metro, I understand that there is certain compliance that I have to do. There is certain monitoring that I have to do. Those regulatory costs, the expenses related to policy enforcement, compliance, monitoring. These are my regulatory costs, right? Similarly, whenever you handle any program, there are certain administrative costs. Administrative costs are costs that are arising to manage and oversee the program, to manage and oversee public programs. So these three costs, they are secondary costs, right? These are not direct costs, they are secondary costs that arise. And therefore, these three costs, they are known as indirect costs, right? Then there is something which is known as the social cost of any program, of any public sector program. Social cost. And in social cost, we have environmental cost, right? In social cost, we also have something which is known as displacement cost. Displacement cost is cost which is related to, so have you heard an example that, the government wants to pass an expressway through an area, and because of that, what the government has to do is reallocate people from that area, वहां से उनको घर हटा के कहीं और उनको घर देना है, right? So the reallocation expenses for people, right, which are affected by these large scale programs. That is your displacement cost. Similarly, there is something which is called as inflationary cost. Now try to see that when government expenditure will be there, being an economic student, you should know better. When G increases, Y increases. When Y increases, AD increases. When AD increases, there will be increase in price. So inflationary cost is basically that when there is excessive public spending, it can drive up inflation. It can lead to inflation. So excessive public spending can lead to inflation, isn't it? So that's your inflationary cost, right? So these three are called as your social cost. Social costs are the unintended extra cost incurred with the projects, unintended negative consequences of the project, right? These are also the cost that you have to go ahead and you have to incur. Is this making sense, beta? So these costs are the costs which are incurred by the government as part of the